How long does BPC-157 stay in your system? If you've been researching BPC-157 or body protective complex, you probably come across claims that this stays in your body for hours or even days, and because it's a popular peptide, but the pharmacokinetic data tells a more precise and more interesting story. The peptide itself clears your plasma in under 30 minutes, but don't freak out. Doesn't mean it's not working. The biological effects it triggers can persist for hours, sometimes even days after you've injected the peptide. Now, understanding this gap is what we're going to be talking about in the video. Think about the dosing that you're using, the timing. We'll talk about what the limitations are of the current science. I'm Regan Archibald. I'm founder of Ageless Future. We're a world leader in longevity medicine. And what I'm about to share with you about BPC-157, most clinics don't understand. Now, if you want to find out if BPC-157, thiamine-beta-4, any of these peptides are right for you, all you need to do is go to agelessfuture.com and get your blood labs ran. Do it the right way. Work with the medical team who has actually utilized peptides for over a decade. So let's talk about the ADME data and what it actually shows. ADME stands for absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion. The formal study of what a drug does once it enters into the body. This first published study for BPC-157 was found in the Frontiers of Pharmacology in 2022, and this was a preclinical data, and it was done in rats, of course. I know it's not ideal, but also 6 beagle dogs. It was 324 rats, 6 beagle dogs. I don't know if they were hanging out together, but it's interesting because they did multiple cohorts, different dosing, and the findings were clear. After intravenous administration in rats, the plasma elimination half-life takes about 15.2 minutes before it starts to drop after the IV. In dogs at comparable doses, it was 5.27 minutes. And after intramuscular injection, the peak plasma concentration it reached was at 3 minutes, and in rats about 6 to 9 minutes. By 4 hours post-dose, the inactive peptide was undetectable in plasma in all dose tested. Now, the peptide is metabolized rapidly into smaller peptide fragments and then into single amino acids, which enter into normal amino acid metabolism. The primary excretion routes were urine and bile, but one important nuance the researchers noticed when they used a radio-labeled version of the peptide to track its metabolic byproducts and total reactivity, it had an apparent half-life of approximately 102 hours. Now, that's not the intact peptide persisting, it's the metabolite, the signal. Remember, this is a signaling molecule, the signal from amino acid recycling. So that intact peptide is gone in under 30 minutes, but it didn't mean that it stopped working. It was active. And so the pharmacokinetics, once again, if you look at everything this thing does, it is very remarkable. I mean, 102 hours is a great period of time, especially if you're someone like me who love mountain biking. Deer Valley just opened their downhill mountain biking here in Utah, so come hang out with me on the slopes. But it's so fun, but a lot of recovery. There's different muscles being utilized. It's a different cardiovascular workout. BPC is something that I've increased my dose because I found that I recover faster. I just feel better. So here's a study from 2026, and what they did is they reviewed human and preclinical data through April of 2026, everything they could find in the past, and they found that the plasma half-life was under 30 minutes. And it contrasts sharply with the biological effects lasting hours to days in animal models. So this proposed explanation that these researchers had is that it's rapid receptor engagement. The peptide binds to its receptors and molecular targets very quickly. And once again, its signaling triggers these downstream cascade of events that persists much longer after the peptide itself is cleared. This research also contains most of the complete human data, accounting across as many studies as they could find. This newer study, what they found is there's 19 subjects total. 2 were from an IV pilot study. In 2025, there's no adverse events, no measurable changes in cardiac, hepatic, renal, thyroid, or metabolic markers at doses of up to 20 milligrams in an IV. 17 from the participants did an intra-articular knee pain case. This is where intra-articular is where BPC was injected right into the knees. And then there's a phase 1 rectal BPC-157 in a trial of 32 healthy male volunteers, and it was completed through a Croatian company called Pilva, and the results still remain unpublished. But to date, there's not much validated human pharmacokinetic profile of BPC-157. There's a lot of data in animals and rodents, but there's millions of humans who have used this peptide for years, and in some cases, decades. And so the honest trade-off of BPC-157, it carries a significant regulatory context because the FDA, as far back as September of 2024, they actually categorized this as a Category 2 substance. Now, the good news is this BPC-157 is one of many on the FDA's list where they are recategorizing it into a Category 1. And so what this allows us to do is 503A and 503B pharmacies, now they'll be able to start legally compounding this agent again. And so if you're working through a clinic, you want to make sure that the sourcing is the most important thing with BPC-157. Many people are just going online, and if you can buy BPC-157 online, this is a very risky proposition you're putting yourself into because, first of all, the research use only world, these are not finished peptides. It's not the complete process. There's no pharmacist that's overseeing the process. There's no pharmacist compounding these agents. And so the risk that you have is endotoxins. You may not be getting the right molecular structure of BPC-157. You may not have the right covalent bonding. You may not have the proper acetylation on the end caps. So do it the right way. Work with a licensed prescribing provider who's using 503A compounding pharmacies because the benefits are pretty darn clear. I mean, from a neuromodulator perspective, we call this the ageless axis. So every human that we work with, we want to build an operating system for your health, focusing on your brain, your muscles, and your heart. And if we can align those systems, that's when you and I would get in our 70s, our 80s, our 90s. That's when we can really start feeling great, looking great, and performing great no matter what age we're at. I've found BPC-157, if we can get the right dosing, the right pulsing and cycling, it's a great peptide, but like every other peptide, it's a signaling messenger. And that signal, it's really important to keep the signals appropriated based on these principles of cycling. You don't want to oversaturate the receptor. And so the pharmacokinetics are pretty clear. BPC-157 is metabolized in about 30 minutes. And then once it's out of your body, the effects last roughly about 102 hours. And this is where it's been really impressive to see some of the mechanisms of action just continually improve the body. So BPC-157, what does it do? Well, it upregulates what's called VEGF. Now, VEGF is the signaling protein that triggers new blood vessel growth. And it also helps activate growth hormone receptor expression. So if you think about what would you want to stack with BPC-157, well, I've got lots of videos on tesamorelin, and tesamorelin is a great growth hormone releasing peptide. And so when you stack growth hormone releasing peptide with BPC, you've already got the expression of the growth hormone receptors. And so your body's already more primed for it. And now you get a little extra pulse. Yes, get your sleep, and there's no amount of poor lifestyle the peptide can overcome. So making sure you're getting proper sleep, proper exercise, proper rest. Get in the gym, start lifting some heavy weights. That can really help improve that growth hormone signal. And then BPC with that VEGF, you're getting better vascularity. You're going to feel much better. The other thing that happens is when these pro-growth signals, these are potent, they've found that wound healing can happen. So there's some people who will say, wow, well, if it's angiogenic and if you're getting VEGF expression, couldn't it theoretically trigger tumor growth? Well, there's no data that actually shows that there's any kind of carcinogenic properties that exist. And even in the rodent models, just like most of BPC-157 has been tested for, even in those models, rodents, they can't induce tumors. They actually has some kind of tumor suppression because you're cleaning up the environment. And by cleaning up the environment, lowering systemic inflammation, that's where cancer just can't thrive. And so one of the things that we do, we always run comprehensive blood labs, look at your blood urea nitrogen, your creatinine levels, your ALT, AST, and then make sure that your baseline kidneys, your liver function's healthy, and then do it in an appropriate manner. So if you like this video, I'd love to hear your comments. What's been your experience on BPC-157? And I'm Regan Archibald. I'll see you on the next video.